This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday as we welcome you in to Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy, Buonantony with you alongside for the first time, which will be for a long time, my new co-host, Jonathan Von Tobel. Welcome, buddy.
We hope it's a long time. We don't know if that's actually going to be the case yet. But yes, I am happy to be here, happy to be up bright and early. I usually am. So I am very excited to be part of this program going forward.
Yes, well, it has been awesome to have so many different, great, smart, creative, fun, rotating co-hosts over the course of the last 6-7 months. I have wanted a full-time teammate for a really long time, and I'm pumped for it to be you and what we can do with the show. I think it's going to be great, and we both have, I think, interesting personalities that'll be fun bouncing off of each other.
I think it's, in all seriousness, I do think that the word that we've used when it comes to this show potentially is going to be balance. Yeah. I think we balance each other out pretty well, and I think that what we're going to do in terms of the push and pull and everything like that is going to work out pretty well. So we will see if it works and if you guys like it too, but I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to what is going to be, I would hope, a very long journey here at the desk.
Yes, and fortunately for us, we're getting started at a very good time of year on the sports calendar with all of the playoff action that we have. We're coming off, of course, a very busy draft weekend, so we've got a lot to get to over the course of the next 2 hours here on Money Move. So let's set the table with the rundown for the day, the top 3 items we're going to get into over the course of the show.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
All right, number 3 in our top 3, JVT. Who needs reality TV when we have the NFL draft? Of course, the big story, Shedeur Sanders and his precipitous fall from, at one point, a draft position over-under of 3.5 in the first round. He gets picked 144 overall. That said, there's a lot more to unpack than just Shedeur, and I am extremely excited about some of these Rookie of the Year markets that are out and available right now, too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can already attack and look at when it comes to Rookie of the Year. You mentioned the drama of not only just him, but certain guys sliding. I think certain teams really made out. I think the Browns are one of them. I actually really like Shedeur, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback. But having opinions on these guys and what the roles are going to be early on, I think there are a lot of good opportunities in the Rookie of the Year market.
No doubt. We'll get into all of that. And one team that typically I just am relentless about and I think do terrible things and are horrible at decision making, that I love the way that they did their draft too. So
okay, I can't wait to hear what that is.
That'll be good.
Better not be the team I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. We shall see. Number 2 in our top 3, the NHL first round is proving the Western Conference is up for grabs. We've got all 4 playoff series in the West tied at 2 right now. We were talking before we got on the air, Oilers-Kings last night with an exclamation point in overtime for Edmonton, down 3-1 midway through the third period. They come back to force overtime and win. The Jets were up 2-0 in their series. St. Louis tied it up at home. Vegas Wild has been wild. We've got Colorado and Dallas going head-to-head tonight to see who will pull away. This is fun in the West.
Yes. Oh, no, it's great. And the last night was fantastic. You know, I think the way that I handicap hockey and the way that I look at it, a lot of even strength metrics and how these teams are performing in 5-on-5, there's not a lot of edges to be found. Usually like to jump on those things and go one way or the other. It doesn't really seem to be the case right now. And you talk about the West being wide open. I mean, the side of the bracket for the Kings and Oilers, all of a sudden the team that I thought looked pretty good on that side, the Vegas Golden Knights, look very gettable at this point right now. So this thing looks absolutely wide open, and a power like the Jets, who everybody kept telling me was the nuts, all of a sudden now is finding itself on the skid. So I'm very excited to see how this develops.
And we will absolutely get into the Connor Hellebuck numbers a little bit later on.
Yeah, what happened?
What is going on with him, especially when it comes to postseason hockey? But
somebody told me he was the best goaltender, and somebody at the network told me he was the best goaltender.
He is, but it's been the narrative in the playoffs for a long time. So we'll get into that. And very excited, by the way, we'll have ESPN's Greg Wyshynski, senior NHL writer over at the network, to break down his picks for the 2 games tonight, thoughts on the series, and get some goaltender updates, by the way, on some injuries that we saw over the weekend. And let's push it forward to the NBA. You are our senior NBA betting analyst here at the network. It was a wild weekend in the association. A no call at the buzzer cost the Pistons a chance to tie a series with New York. The Lakers find themselves down 3-1 against the Timberwolves. But I think the headline here, and where I want to start as we wrap up the rundown, is the devastating injury to Bucks star Damian Lillard.
Yeah, Lillard, it is all but assumed that it is a torn Achilles for Damian Lillard. Chris Haynes, who's got a pretty good read on Dame, think pretty well connected. You can put those two things together. Reported pretty quickly after the injury that the fear is that it's an Achilles injury, and that looks like it's going to be the case. So for this series, a series that is now 3-1 in favor of the Indiana Pacers, we can assume what is going to happen, but I think really it's the big picture for the Milwaukee Milwaukee Bucks and what this means. And I wanted to give you this because this is an incredible statistic when you look at what Giannis has had to go through so far when you're talking about the load on his shoulders. Giannis' last 11 playoff games, he is averaging 36.7 points, 14.5 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. They are 3-8 in those games. He is doing everything and yet getting nothing. This team's really up against it. They lack perimeter athleticism, and this is a very bad matchup for him. So this should be over in 5, and then the questions remain of big picture, what happens for Milwaukee.
And that's how it's been this series for sure. It's been the Giannis show and nobody else. And even with Dame coming back for those couple games, and there were questions, right? What was he going to look like coming off of the blood thinning medication and the time away as he was trying to figure out what was going on and if he could come back, an unprecedented return for him. And on the court, it wasn't there. He's gone under his point props in every game. He only played 6 minutes before the Achilles injury the other day, and now, or I guess yesterday. But now with him gone, it feels like this is all chalked up to being done. And I feel for Giannis. I feel for the Bucks in this spot that they have really, really tried. They got their title, don't get me wrong, but they've really tried to get back there and have not been able to.
So I think there's two things. First off, you want more, right? Giannis has said so as much, like you said. All right, cool, you get the one title. Many could argue, though, remember, if KD doesn't wear a shoe that is half a size too big, they potentially win that Eastern Conference semifinal series against some of the Brooklyn Nets, and who knows what happens from there. Harden also with one leg in that series. But I think also what's been interesting in this series has been the market's, I will call it somewhat belief in the Milwaukee Bucks. On a day-to-day basis, you go back to game 1, the Indiana Pacers win and they cover. A cheap number in game 2, they win and they cover. You come back to game 3, a very inflated number both first half and for the game. They're down, the Bucks are, by 10 in the first half, and then eventually come storming back, beat the crap out of them. And again, yesterday, a 4-point line in favor of them, and they lose by 26 points.
Yeah.
There's been a very stubborn belief in the market in Milwaukee, despite everything they're dealing with. And if you've been betting Milwaukee, you've been getting your teeth kicked in here in the series.
Something tells me that even at 12-1 to come back, you're not going to see a lot of people taking that price.
You can't. There's just nothing, like you said. We rattled off the numbers right now. Giannis is otherworldly. He is having an incredible series. They're not close in their 3 losses, not even close. So that's a really big problem to ask a team to come back from when you just have one guy to drag you by the scruff of your neck to victory.
Game 5 tomorrow in Indianapolis. Pacers an early 7.5-point favorite, total 223.5, 224, depending on where you look. In the meantime, who saw this coming in Timberwolves Lakers? LA down in the series now 3-1. They're plus 350 dogs to come back after 116-113 loss in Minnesota yesterday. JJ Redick pulled a Tom Thibodeau, if you want to call it that. Starters in the game literally for the entire second half, according to ESPN Stats and Information Group. First team since this began getting tracked in 1996 that a team had 0 substitutions in any half of a playoff game, and the fatigue showed.
So this is where I think JJ Redick did something great and he did something terrible. He did great by adjusting what he wanted to do at halftime. He benches Jackson Hayes. He puts in Dorian Finney-Smith in his place. And remember, they go out and they immediately start the third quarter on a 14-0 run. The Timberwolves, for some reason, were blitzing and trapping, doing all these things. And so you have Luka Doncic, you have LeBron James. They're moving the ball around. They're getting all these 4-on-3s, 3-on-2s around the court, and it's really working for them. And they open up a double-digit lead at one point. I think they're up by 12. But I understand wanting to play your advantage, but that is, I think, a blind spot there for J.J. Redick to drive them into the ground like that in that second half. You mentioned late in the fourth quarter. You're talking about front rim shots that are short. That is a sign of fatigue. That is a sign of short legs. And I thought that was really what wore them down here in that game. And I think that's going to be a big problem. Now, I would say this. The series, again, 3-1, very hard to come back from. Be very interested to support the Lakers maybe in a first quarter play coming back home, because I would assume that you are starting this 5 yet again when you get out there, that small ball lineup, pushing out the perimeter, forcing Rudy Gobert off the floor. Rudy Gobert did not close this game out. It was Naz Reid who closed out for Minnesota. So I thought it was a good move by JJ, but you got to at least spell the guys. It doesn't matter if you want to play a vast majority of the second half, but you got to get some other dudes on the floor.
Well, and especially considering I know that LeBron, even at 40 years old, is one of the best players in the entire league. But at 40 years old, you had the quick turnaround from the late game Friday to the early game Sunday, being held in that entire time. He was scoreless in the fourth quarter. Last 3 possessions for him were bad. And then Luka coming off the sickness, too. It wasn't a recipe, I feel like, for success to have them play that many minutes at the end of the game. And for Redick to treat this like a game 7, essentially, in a must-win, gotta-have-it game, that gives me a little bit of concern moving forward for the Lakers.
Absolutely. And here's what you need to know. I think that really kind of gives you an idea of what they're up against, right? That is their best lineup. I think they call it their laser lineup. Jovan Buha reported that. It is a small ball lineup with LeBron James at the 5, and you got a whole bunch of guys out there. For the postseason, essentially in this series, their lasers lineup, their best lineup, has a negative 8.2 net rating. They're outscored by 8.2 points every 100 possessions when they're on the floor. So even their best shot is still getting run off the floor in a really big way outside of a good stretch in the third quarter. So not only from a series deficit are you up against it, but the one big adjustment, the ace in the hole, if you will, that you had is still getting its face caved in when it's on the floor against this Timberwolves team. And the flip side of that, Naz Reid on the floor without Rudy Gobert, a plus 15.5 net rating for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're awesome when they go a little bit smaller.
Oof, there you go. Also, so you mentioned first quarter, Lakers laying 2.5 in the first quarter in that game coming up in a couple days. As far as the game spread, 5.5 total, 209.5. And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Pistons Knicks. It was a foul. The lead official even called it a foul after the game, but that's not going to help any Pistons money line bettors.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. Like, I got a couple of, it's weird. I got a couple of people that were New York affiliated in my mentions yesterday talking about, like, oh, you don't call it there. I'll have more on that, but there is no question it was a foul. The powers that be have already said that. So I assume that we're going to have the replaying of the final 5 seconds at some point here, right? Oh, no, it's still a 3-1. Well, I'm glad they at least admitted it. The Pistons now down 3-1 can feel a lot better going back to New York.
That's the thing about those reports afterwards. Like, do you think it makes it better? No, it makes it worse, actually, when all is said and done. 94-93, the final score in that one. We are just getting started here on Money Moves. After the break, we'll continue the NBA conversation, get into our thoughts on the 2 games we've got coming up tonight. This total has dropped double digits from the Game 1 opener, and the unders 3-0 so far. Could it be time for an over? JVT will give you his thoughts on that coming up after this on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back in action here on Money Moves on a Monday, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. And let's keep this NBA talk rolling. We've got 2 games coming up tonight as round 1 of the playoffs continues. Cavs, Heat, Rockets, Warriors. And hey, you're our senior NBA guy. Who do you want to go to first?
I mean, here's the thing. That title is, I think, kind of made up. I don't really roll by that anymore. I prefer analyst.
Okay.
So it puts it, an undue, I would say, stress on my shoulders. Yeah, burden every single time. I got a text the other day from a former Visa and PA who has not worked here in like 6 years. And he was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know, why? I appreciate it. I think we should get the easy one.
You're the go-to guy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's very much so. Undue, but I appreciate it. Cleveland, Miami. I think it's the easy one to get out of the way, right? Cavs are an 8.5-point favorite. Total's 211. The only thing that the Heat have to go on is Tyler Hero saying that they weren't going to lose in 4, and that's really about it. Their defense has been awful. As I keep saying with this, when you watch the Cavaliers, they just touch paint all day. It's a foot in the paint, and it's either finishing within 4 feet or kicking it out to open shooters. This has been a series in which the Heat have very clearly shown that they have some very big issues. And here's the thing, Stormy, is I wrote about this in the series preview up on the website. Similar to what we were talking about with the Lasers lineup with the Lakers, the quiver in the arrow for Miami, to make a nerdy reference, right? The Hobbit, the big black arrow that kills the dragon above the village or whatever it is, like that for Miami was supposed to be their zone defense. They played it way more than anybody else in the regular season, about 14% of their possessions. It worked out really well. Cavaliers see it. They can break them out of it real quick, man. They got a versatile big to attack the teeth of the defense. They've got enough shooting to break them out of it as well. And you look at the offensive rating for Cleveland in the series as well. It's an absolute nightmare. So maybe Miami puts up a good enough fight to stay inside of this number, but I fully expect that this game is going to, this series is going to be over tonight.
The sweep, get the brooms out if that should be the way things play out. And I mean, the Cavs have won every game. When you look at the spread being 8.5 largely across the board right now, they've won every game by 9+. Average margin of victory, 22.3 points per game in this spot. So I feel like the Cavs win, even if Miami puts up a fight. I don't know how much of a fight that'll really mean, considering how good Cleveland's been here. We have seen a little bit of movement on the total, if that impacts you at all. Not much, but like 210 to 211 in some spots. We're seeing 210.5 live at DraftKings right now, but it's been kind of up and down.
Yeah, I think so. Clearly, if you look at the offense rating for Cleveland so far in this series, they have averaged 122 point. No, hold on, that's for the regular season. 122.4, something like that in the playoffs here, and that's again the one series that they have played. They've been absolutely unreal, and I'm sorry I had to filter that out. 135.7, a paltry 135.7 points per 100 possessions. So that's not going anywhere. None of the shooting metrics would tell you that they're like doing something unsustainable here at this point right now. They're getting into the paint, they're getting open looks, so there's not anything that's going to change in that regard. From a pace standpoint in this series, when you look at how quick they've played, from that standpoint, it hasn't been overtly quick. It's just been about efficiency. So if you want to sit here and say, all right, Miami puts up a better defensive effort, stays inside of a number, and the game like sneaks under a 211, I think that makes some sense. We should also go back to what we watched over the weekend. It is human nature to let the foot off the gas when you have the insurmountable 3-0 lead. Look at what Memphis just did to Oklahoma City over the weekend without Ja Morant on the floor. They pushed him to the final possession, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And so I think there is a human nature element of coming in here and going, this team's got nothing. Even if we lose this game, gentleman's sweep, will take them back home, and then we'll take care of business back in Cleveland. So it situationally would make some sense that if you want to take some Miami here, but if the situation is all you have to go on, and that's what you're saying is the reason why Miami is going to all of a sudden play defense against a team that's got an offensive rating of 130 in 3 games, I can't really condone that.
Hard to get there
for
me personally. And good reminder though, because you said you have been doing series previews, and I know you'll continue to do them throughout the rest of the way here in the NBA postseason. Zach Cohen has regular articles up on VSiN.com, and right now we've got the Killer Sports NBA Playoff Challenge that is in action, where 15 different sharp minds and bettors from the world of VSiN and Killer Sports have been going head to head, making 38 picks each from the start of the playoffs all the way through the NBA Finals. So in totality, 570 different NBA playoff picks, all available to VSiN Pro subscribers. They're locked in an hour before the first game each day, so you get those fresh insights to guide your bets every step of the postseason. When you come join us, VSiN.com/subscribe. That's how you can get on board. Full VSiN Pro access right now through August 1st, just $59. And let's get to the second game of the day.
By the way, thanks for reminding me. I got to put my picks in.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
see, this is what I'm here for. Teamwork. The Golden State Warriors up 2-1 in the series with Houston. They split those games in Houston to start before taking game 1 at home in a tough comeback win for Golden State, 104-93 on Saturday. Back at Chase Center tonight, Warriors laying 4, total 202.5. Jimmy Butler missed the game 3 win. He's officially questionable, but the belief is that he will play. And this is what I teased in the last segment. Low total in this game. This has been a dogfight type series, but it's just continued to get lower as we've gone game by game.
Yeah, so the opening total for game 1 was 217. That closed 212.5, went under by 32.5 points. So, okay, that deems some sort of an adjustment. Game 2 opens 207, closes 204.5. That goes under by a point and a half. Game 3 opens 202.5. You actually see some action to the over. That closes 205.5. Goes under by 8.5 points. So we're finally starting to see at least the market and those that shape it. This is, it seems to be the bottom line. 202.5 seems to be too low because 202.5 got bet over in game 3. We're also starting to see it get bet over a little bit here today because the vast majority of spots are up to 203 right now. And I would agree with that sentiment. I think when you look at a couple of things here in this series, you can point to the fact that the Warriors, for example, are shooting just about 32% on catch and shoot attempts from beyond the arc in this series. It's a very low percentage. They're a better team than that when you talk about the ability to hit from beyond the arc and hit, catch, and shoot 3-point attempts. From a pace standpoint, it's not a particularly slow series. It's right in the middle of the pack, right at about 93 possessions per game. So it's not like you're agonizingly slow, like let's say Boston and Orlando, which have averaged less than 90 possessions per game. That is agonizingly slow. It's disgusting. So when you look at it from that perspective, the fact that Jimmy Butler's back, so you get a guy, we're assuming Jimmy Butler's back, we should say.
Yes.
That is going to be a high isolation scorer, so it might slow down the pace, but he's an efficient isolation scorer at that. And just another gravitational force that the Rockets have to account for that opens up the floor a little bit. I think you can get to a point where we start to see this series maybe leak a little over, especially with how low we are. So I bet over 202.5. I'm with those who think that maybe 202.5 is a bridge too far, and we'll see if we can get there.
Yeah, we haven't seen it crack 200 yet. The first game, though, I think was a little bit of an anomaly, the way that defensive performance on both sides ultimately went. Every single game, we have seen at least one of the two teams held under 95 points. But to your point, if we're starting to go this way and each game has gone up 180, 193, 197, you're on trajectory to crack that 200 mark today and see what it looks like.
Well, I think it's fair to draw a line through game 2, right? Because Brandon Podziemski has a stomach illness. He misses most of the game. He has to leave right before first half. That is also the game in which Jimmy Butler gets hurt in. So you have a ridiculous affair in which the Rockets more than willing to blow out the Warriors if given the chance. And then you have guys like Quentin Post playing 25 minutes. And who's my guy that got Pat Spencer, who ended up playing 12 and taking 7 shot attempts. Pat Spencer is a former Northwestern player who I think played lacrosse for a while, whatever. And he wears number 61 as a guard. Like, that's not anything that is going to happen over the course of a real playoff game if you're in full strength. So I really think we only have 2 games to go on at this point right now. And I'm willing to take my chance that I think that 202.5 is too low. So we'll see what the market does. Early indications are that it's going over, at least in terms of the number.
Okay, early look at tomorrow's games that we've got on tap as well. I've gone 23 minutes on money moves today without asking you how you're holding up with that Clippers-Nuggets loss. The way that it went down on Saturday, and judging by the look on your face, you're unwell.
I don't want to.
You're not doing great today.
I'll say this. They've been getting killed on the glass throughout the series, and it is fitting that is the way that they lose, that they failed to box out Aaron Gordon. Everybody thought that shot was just going to go up and every bit of time was going to burn out, and that ultimately wasn't the case. I find it hard to be too heartbroken in a game in which they were down by 20 late, and they come storming back to potentially do that. But I will say this, Stormy, when these teams have looked their best, the Nuggets have barely gotten by, and the Clippers have looked like they are twice the team that the Nuggets are. So going back on the road here, they are rightful favorites, much like they were in Game 2. I think that they are perfectly capable of going out there and winning this game. I have used them for the contest. Got a text from somebody that said that it is a respected person. It's their largest playoff bet of the postseason is Clippers on the road against the Nuggets. I think that they have proven that they are the better team. But as I put it to somebody when I was texting them with them on Saturday, the Clippers, I think, are clearly the better team. The Nuggets are clearly the more consistent team. And that is, I think, a really big deal and why the series is where it's at. But I do expect this to be 3-2 going back to LA.
The current price right now for the series, Clippers minus 160, Nuggets plus 135.
Pretty strong considering, so I was texting with Kelly, who I guess is on vacation for 10 months.
Yeah, he's never coming back, I think.
But as he put it, which is kind of scary to think about it this way, it is, you're laying $160 on a best 2 out of 3 with 2 on the road in Denver against the best player in the world. I think they deserve to be favored, but that is a hefty price tag. I do have the Clippers before the series started, so we'll sweat that out. But
as do I, but I'm not as invested as you. So this is exciting for me just to watch the emotional wave that we have.
It's not that exciting for me.
We got to take a quick timeout coming up on Money Moves. Shifting gears to the NHL with ESPN's Greg Wyshynski after this. In the Panthers Lightning series so far, the road team is 3-0. Will the defending Cup champs buck that trend as home favorites tonight? Plus a whole lot more. Stick around. More Money Moves after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
In the NHL, all 4 playoff series in the Western Conference are now tied at 2 as of yesterday. Certainly a lot up for grabs in the West. We got 2 really interesting games coming up tonight, including in the Eastern Conference, Lightning and Panthers, where home ice can't seem to catch a break. That as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. JVT and Stormy Buonantony with you. Very excited to welcome in our next guest here on the Progressive Guest Line, Greg Wyshynski, Senior NHL Writer at ESPN, to help us break it all down, get some of his leans for tonight. But I want to start there in the Western Conference with last night's result in Kings Oilers. I have been such a believer in this Los Angeles Kings team that they're finally going to be able to get this monkey off their back with the Oilers in the first round. And then what happens the last 2 games? They let Edmonton back into this thing. Also, we're never going to get an under in this series, are we?
Not when it requires Edmonton to not come roaring back like they've constantly done in these playoffs when the chips are down. I think LA really blew a golden opportunity to take control of this series in Edmonton over the last couple of games. Not only last night where they have a lead in the third period and they try to sit on it and instead of being aggressive and now you've opened the door for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to rally their team, but also in Game 3 where their coach Jim Hiller made probably the most disastrous coaching decision of the playoffs when he decided to challenge a goal for goalie interference. I'm still wondering what the hell he saw to try to do that. They fail the challenge. They get a penalty for delay of game, and then Edmonton breaks a 4-4 tie with a power play goal after that. So, it's a lot of self-inflicted wounds for the Kings, but, at the end of the day, it's trying to do something they've been unable to do now in 3 other straight trips to the playoffs, which is beat a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And so far they're having a heck of a time trying to do it again.
Greg, when I last talked to you, I think it was on Follow the Money, you were pretty high on Edmonton. Now that they are a little bit informed, the even strength metrics would paint a picture of some pretty solid dominance. Would you be confident enough to look at this team to win the next 2 and close this series out in 6? Because you can get like plus 270 on Oilers minus 1.5 games for the series right now.
Yeah, I think I had them in 6 before the playoffs. And so, they've got a bit of momentum now. They've come to the realization, and I think it's an accurate one, which is that they cannot rely on their goaltending. They're just going to have to outscore their problems. And so, they've found a bit of a groove. They found a bit of confidence. And, the problem for the Kings right now in this series is that the only way that they were going to find a way to victory was to show that things were going to be different this time. And, through 2 games of the series, maybe there was that inkling of, well, maybe this is a better defensive Kings team. Maybe they do have offensive players that can come through in the clutch, answering the Oilers' late goals in game 1 in the way they did to win that game. Like, there was a little bit of that seed of doubt in the first 2 games, but I think it's gone now. Like, I think the Edmonton Oilers have excavated that seed pretty well and are not worried about the Kings anymore in this series.
Sorry, Stormy.
Yeah, thanks for that. I really needed that. No, let's look to tonight and keeping it in the Western Conference. The Avs and Stars also tied at 2. Colorado minus 142. Road favorite tonight. Gabe Landeskog comes back after missing 3 years, essentially. He scores in game 4. It's a big boost for them, really impose their will finally, it feels like, in that previous game. Is that something you think they can carry over into tonight against the Stars, or is this a team that we just maybe, because of some of the injuries, overlooked a little bit too much come into the series?
Yeah, the betting markets seem to believe they will. Like, I was a little bit surprised to see the Avalanche as such a heavy favorite in this game, if only because I think the Stars have shown they play well at home. They've shown in the series a few times they can go toe-to-toe with this Colorado team, even though they're shorthanded. We'll wait and see what happens with Miro Heiskanen, their best defenseman, and his status. I don't know if he's been in or ruled out or quite what they have on the docket yet for him in this game and then any other game in the series. But I think that there's a chance that this could be a home ice situation for the next 2 games, with Dallas winning game 5, Colorado winning game 6, and then we finish this thing up where a lot of us figured that it could end up in a game 7. But I think the combination of Landeskog coming back, scoring the goal, and the emotions that are tied up in that, and the manner in which Colorado won game 4, a game that Dallas, I think, kind of probably concluded early on they weren't going to win, has contributed to there being maybe a little bit too much in the way of support for Colorado right now for this game tonight.
All right, Greg, what about what we get for Tampa Bay and Florida today? Pretty curious right now. I think we got Florida as a $1.45 favorite in some spots. They close as a minus 130 favorite in game 3. Can they take a commanding lead in this series?
I think they can. I was really surprised by the result in the previous game. Obviously there's a bit of desperation inherent in Tampa, not only in where the series was, but not having Brandon Hagel, one of their top scorers, at a time in which their offense had really atrophied in the series. He gets that 1-game suspension for hitting Sasha Barkov in game 2. So I think there'll be some course correction from the Panthers in this game. You can make the argument that they maybe won the series by playing as well as they did in Tampa in the first 2 games of the series. So, would it shock me in the Battle of Florida to see Tampa somehow scratch out another win and send this thing back 2-2? It wouldn't shock me at all. These are 2 extremely good teams. But, you can kind of maybe see the desperation victory in game 3 followed by a Florida victory where they find their game again in game 4.
I feel like if Andrei Vasilevsky plays like he did on Saturday, they could win any game, but that's a big if based on what we've seen here so far, especially against this Florida team. I wanted to ask you about the Freddie Anderson injury with the Carolina Hurricanes. He has that collision with Timo Meier in net. We don't see him the rest of the way. Have you heard anything there, and what kind of impact might that have on Carolina, who's the Cup favorite right now?
Yeah, I covered the game yesterday, and it was a pretty good knock. Timo Meier is a very large gentleman, and he skated in and kind of connected with Anderson's upper body and part of his head with his hip. Anderson left the game, obviously didn't come back. They're going to learn a lot more today because Anderson was due to get reevaluated in Raleigh. You know, his health and stability in the crease has always been an issue for Carolina. It doesn't seem like they ever get this guy to play a full playoff run for them. But their backup, Peter Kochetkov, is pretty good. I mean, doesn't have the same playoff experience as Freddie Anderson, but I don't think he's a liability. I know once he gets his head in the game and feels his rhythm, I think he can be a competent goalie. And frankly, you know, with the way that the Carolina Hurricanes play defensively in front of their goaltenders, that might be enough. I mean, you look at their penalty kill, for example, that's a perfect 12 for 12 against the Devils in the series. Some of that is the goalie, but a lot of it is the way that they play. So I think if you're Carolina, you know, usually you're not looking for guys to steal series. You're just looking for them to not lose a series for you. And I think Kochetkov could be that for them.
Is there a way we can take advantage of the way the West is priced right now? Obviously, all these series are 2-2. It looks wide open. Would you take a stab at one of these teams at longer odds to maybe make their way out, like an Oilers plus 650 to win the West or something like that?
Who are the lower odds? Let me know where the market is right now.
In that range, you have the Oilers at plus 650, Stars at plus 650, Kings at 7-1, Wild at 13-1, Blues at 15-1. And if you want to go to the top, Avalanche are 4-1, Jets 450, Knights 5-1. This is just to win the West.
Well, listen, I have Dallas winning the West. I still think that if they can find their way through the series, and again, it's been a tightly played series for the most part. They have gotten a little bit of luck in winning a couple of overtime games, which I'm sure is also a reason that people are on the Avalanche tonight, because they don't think that those wins are as convincing as the wins the Avalanche have had in the series. So I still think if Dallas can find their way through the series somehow, they're probably coming out of the West. I mean, I think they're better than whoever they're going to meet in the next round. They're going to get healthier with Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen coming back as the playoffs get longer. They're still the team that I think is the most intriguing team of that group. But, you know, let's be honest. I mean, the Minnesota Wild are playing beyond expectation right now against the Vegas Golden Knights. And, you know, their top offensive players, Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, have really leveled up in an impressive way in these playoffs. I don't know if it's going to continue, and I still can't believe the Knights could lose to this team. But, you know, early on in the playoffs, you kind of have to like squint and say, all right, who might have a little bit of magic going on here? And the Wild certainly have been riding a lot of emotion and a lot of positive vibes since the end of the season. And you can't ignore, you know, when your star players start carrying you, that might continue for multiple rounds.
We've only got about 20 seconds left, Greg, but how in trouble could the Jets be?
Oh, they're boned. Are you kidding me? Like, their best player is their goalie, and their goalie can't seem to win in the playoffs. I mean, Congratulations to the Jets and Connor Hellebuck. They're going to get past Game 5 at least this season. But his postseason numbers, and it's not all his fault because the team has not played all that well in front of him, especially in clearing out the screens in front of Hellebuck. But, you know, when it's 3 straight seasons of disastrous numbers for a guy that's supposed to be the best goalie in the world, it sucks your confidence right out of your body.
Yeah, just needed that confirmation. Appreciate you, Greg. Thanks for doing this.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Greg Wyshynski, everybody, ESPN Senior NHL Writer over there. Make sure you follow him on X as well, at Wyshynski. We're going to take a break. Call me crazy, but after this, we'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This time of year, you're placing a lot of bets on the playoffs. It can be easy to get lost in the sauce. If you want to consider having a separate bank account for your betting money versus your regular day-to-day cash, got to check out Edge Boost, ensuring any and all gambling transactions are approved. It's the first ever bank account that is built for you as a bettor. No usage fees, no minimums. You get cashback rewards, 100% approval for any and all betting deposits. And get this, when you sign up today at edgeboost.bet and use our promo code MONEY, deposit $25. Edge Boost will match that deposit for you. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet. That's edgeboost.bet.
Put on your tinfoil hats.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The whole world gone crazy.
For Call Me Crazy, but...
Oh, let's get into it. Time for Call Me Crazy, but Stormy Buonantony and Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves. And tread lightly, JVT. I do not like to be called crazy.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think many women don't like being called crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't work out well for you at home, I'm sure, when you go that route.
I've never done that.
Rightfully so. Well played. Let's get into it. And coming off of our conversation with ESPN's Greg Wyshynski last segment, I'm going to start in the National Hockey League. Call me crazy, but at least 3 of the top 5 short shots on the Stanley Cup futures board are unbettable. And let's go through them here, starting with the Carolina Hurricanes, who are your short shot at plus 450, have not made a cup final since they won it the last 20 years. They always win their opening round. This has been a bad matchup for the Devils. I am not letting this round sway me in any way, shape, or form that they're bettable all of a sudden, especially with now, as we talked about, the injury to Frederik Andersen. The 2 times, by the way, in the last 7 years that they have advanced in the playoffs and made the conference finals. 2023, how'd that turn out? They got swept. 2019, swept again. Then we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs, plus 750, third shot. Everyone's asking, is this the Leafs' year? This team feels different. Where have I heard that before? Only every season for the last decade, yet they too, nothing to show for it. Last cup they won was in 1967, and I'm going to round it out here with the Winnipeg Jets, who are the 5th shot at plus 950. Were they the best team in the league this year? Yes. Do they have the best goaltender in the National Hockey League? Yes. Going to win the Vezina this year. Won it last year. Was a finalist the year before. Yet his playoff numbers are abysmal. Not only has he given up 12 goals the last 2 games, but 52 in his last 13 in the playoffs. I cannot trust or bet on any of those teams in the top 5.
All right. So I agree, or do I tell you whether you're crazy or not?
Am I crazy?
Okay. No, I wouldn't say so. I would also say that hockey, and I mean this lovingly, is a very stupid sport. Well, in the sense of, look, there's a lot of variance. This is what I mean by the stupidity of hockey. Was it game 3 of the Vegas Golden Knights Wild Series where I think Minnesota was just like, at the end of the second period, desperately put a shot on net and let's just see what happens, and it bounces off. I mean, the Knights saw over the weekend. There's a guy just laying on the ground and they just careened the puck off of his corpse into the goal. Like, hockey's a dumb sport. So you have a bunch of stuff.
You can use a different word for that, though.
You don't have to call it stupid. I mean,
this is going to be a fun show.
I mean it lovingly, but I agree with you in terms of the variance in a bunch of series that are tied to with a bunch of teams that are around there. A lot of the issues that are going on with the teams at the top that you could point to, I would very much say I would rather look elsewhere in a sport that has a lot of variance to begin with.
Okay, your turn.
Okay, all right. Let's see. So call me crazy, but I think a foul should be called if it is a freaking foul, no matter what stage of the game. We have a game get decided yesterday when Tim Hardaway Jr. goes up for a 3-point shot in the corner. He is completely and utterly fouled. That has been admitted so by the NBA officials. Moments after the game, they admit that this is a foul, and yet you have people coming in and say, you can't call it there. You tell me when you can call things then. You tell me when a foul is no longer a foul, because the problem is it is a slippery slope. Because if you don't want officials to get involved, all right, cool, then can I travel now? Cool. Can I punch a guy in the throat? Can I do these things? No. So you clearly have a line. Where is it? It's a stupid thing to do. Yes, they were letting them play throughout the game, but letting them play means not calling ticky-tack stupid fouls when you have a clear and blatant shooting foul at the end of a game, which, by the way, swings a series.
Yes.
You're talking about a difference between 3-1 and 2-2. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the irony of the Knicks fans with foul hunting free throw merchant Jalen Brunson leading the way every single time looking for a call. Absolutely ridiculous. But a foul should be called if it is a foul, no matter what stage of the game.
I don't think you're crazy. And what I'll say about specifically that foul in that spot, I think it's ridiculous for anyone to say you can't call it there when it's that blatant. It's that obvious. I don't know how the official missed it in real time, but he was even so quick to come out immediately after the game to say, no, that was a foul. But unfortunately, you can't take it back.
Right.
So I think you do. You absolutely call it when it's obvious nonetheless. Okay.
Can I add really quickly,
Sure.
too, the betting implications of certain things? For example, if that is called, you hit a couple of free throws, whatever it is, we're talking about like series total.
Yes.
You lock in the over there
Yes.
if it's a 2-2 series, things like that. There's other implications. You know, the spread was not in doubt there, but there are things that matter when you swallow the whistle in those moments.
So I know we're going to talk about the draft in a more serious way and the different betting odds that are indicated with the markets that are up and everything. But I just want to say this on the Shedeur Sanders thing. Prank calls have never been and will never be cool. Call me crazy, but prank calls should not be a thing. I think it's ridiculous. I do not want to be in a position to ever feel bad for Shedeur Sanders, yet there I was. And he, by the way, is not the only person that was impacted by this. Why isn't anybody talking about Tyler Warren? Why isn't anybody talking about all these other players that had that happen to them on draft day? And it's a stupid thing. This isn't freaking crank yankers, okay? This is real life.
Okay, good. I was going to bring them up because I do think you're crazy in the sense of practical phone calls or prank calls are hilarious when done in the right context. But like these, I don't consider them prank calls, right? These are kind of like malicious calls to get somebody's hopes up. Prank calls are hilarious. Crank Yankers was great when it was at the peak of its powers. You liked it. You referenced it. You watched it.
I watched it.
Of course,
because
it was great.
But that's like
prank calls themselves are awesome. What happened during the draft was not, but I don't consider those to be prank calls. I think they are mislabeled and giving prank calls a
they're giving prank calls a bad name. Grow up, Jonathan Von Tobel.
There's also certain prank calls that I love that I can't reference here on the air because they're not allowed anymore.
Save that for
in today's
VSiN
society.
plus. Okay, what do you got next?
All right, I'll go to this one because I think this is relatable. I'll go to my last one. A bar should never have every TV on a single game. It should also have machines at every single spot. So on Saturday, I got off the air here at Live Bet Saturday. I went far away to a bar, and I was like, look, I got some time to kill. I'm going to watch this Clippers game on my own so I can drink in my misery and be upset because they were down by quite a bit. And I walk into a bar that has every single TV on the Knights game, which was already over. Every TV. And I'm not even talking about the ones at the bar. It was the TVs on the walls as well. And then the other part, which was terrible, Stormy, I'm a poker player. I like to play. All of the machines were on one side of the bar. They didn't have them all the way around. So I had to go on the other side of the bar and sit between strangers who I don't know to play video poker and watch my team lose in that fashion. And yes, I was me. I was gesticulating, doing all the things. Absolute insanity that I have to walk into a bar and ask for a TV to be changed and to find a machine nestled between a drunk dude and his bros and some lady who I've never even spoken to before in my life.
Sounds like you had a good time. But I will say, I think this about bars. I said this during the March Madness time, gyms, like all of these places. If there are marquee major live sporting events on television, you as a public place need to have them on the screens. And especially in your case where that game's over, let's change the channel. Let's move on. Over under 8 minutes, by the way, for the bartender to be able to change the channel because they seem inept and incapable of being able to do that. Sorry, I love you bartenders. I will always tip you, but you're terrible with the TVs.
It was like 20 minutes. I had to watch like the third quarter on my phone.
It's just okay. So that checks. I'm going to throw one more at you here because even though you don't want to take it, you're the NBA guy. So help a sister out. Call me crazy, but the Lakers are cooked. I feel like the approach that JJ Redick had in that second half, playing all of the starters the entire time, treating this like it is a must-win, gotta have it, game 7, and losing, does not give me any ounce of confidence on the Lakers moving forward. I do not think that LeBron and Luka can get them out of this hole when all's said and done.
Yeah, I mean, you got to win 3 straight against a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would agree with the premise there.
Like nothing about plus 350 drew me to bet the Lakers.
No, I mean, look, again, their best lineup, their best weapon, it ended up failing. And that's a very poor sign. We've gone through the numbers in terms of how badly they've been outscored when their Blazers lineup is on the floor. Like, that was their best crack at it, and they really didn't have anything for Minnesota, and they ended up blowing that game in the fourth quarter. They were completely gassed. So I think Redick kind of blew this one. I think if you give your guys a little bit more respite throughout the course of the second half, there's probably a pretty good shot that they can hold on in that game. And then, of course, you can get to the end of the game in terms of the officiating, Lucas stepping on McDaniel's foot, whatever it is. But you guys gassed out for a reason. I would agree with you. It's going to be hard to come back from 3-1 in any sort of situation. But now, especially when you've shown your team, I don't trust any of you. I can only play 5.
Anything we can do in the last minute?
Let's see. I just say that this is the best NBA postseason we've seen in decades. I don't think that's absolutely wild. These games have been absolutely tremendous. They all seem to be within one score of each other. The point spreads are up in almost every single game at the end of these contests. I have had a great time watching almost every single one of these games. I think it's the best postseason we've seen in decades.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was going to say, what's your point? What's your point of reference then, huh? You're like, I don't know. The 2017 postseason, there was nothing like it.
It's the first round.
It's great.
How are we to say this is the best we're not even a full round in, and you're already staking that claim. I do think you're crazy. I think that's a little bit ridiculous at this point.
Sorry.
But maybe
I should say that there's nothing like the hockey playoffs.
You're right. The Memphis Grizzlies getting blown out multiple games was a blast. Super competitive. Loved that for us. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, resetting for hour 2, our reaction to the NFL draft and some potential bets to be made in the Rookie of the Year markets.